Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so we're about to start assembling the diff for the wagon. So we've got our braided lines there, our diff locker there, our VS Commodore brakes and GTR brakes on either side, and then these are our new discs. So you can see that they are DBA 20s, which is a VN SS HSV rear brake disc, and they look like this. They got some nice vented bits, got some nice drum brake bits, and they're a 5-stud. Now these got a different PCD or whatever it's called to the R31 brakes or wheels or stud pattern or whatever. So as a result, you'll never be able to line them up perfectly. So if I line up the center bore and try to line up one of the holes, you can see that it's off center. So our trick of bolting them together and just drilling it doesn't quite work yet. So what we need to do is pick a hole and elongate it a little bit. I know it's sacrilegious, but this is the best I can do with the materials and tools I have. So I'm going to elongate one of these holes on each of the discs, then bolt that disc to it and drill our other 3 holes, and then these will be ready to go on. Okay, so we've elongated this hole here just enough that when I sit this disc on it and throw this bolt that is the same size through, it lines up. So the bolt is square in the hole and the disc is all the way this way, and I just sort of feel around this inside edge and make it all as even as I can. I know this is very scientific. All as even as I can, so that when I put this nut on the other side and tighten it up, I'm making sure that the bore of this is centered to the other disc. If it's not, then all the holes will be like over here and the disc will wobble really badly. So I have done this before and it does work, but you've got to be really, really precise, or as precise as you can be just going by feel. So if you're not sure, take it down to an engineering shop and get them to re-drill it for you. But I'm pretty confident, and I also have this, which I think is off an S13, that is roughly the same, so I can plonk that in and feel if it's I've done a good job or not. Alright, so once you've got it dead center, as you can see I totally have, rattle this down as firmly as you can and double check that it's still centered and hasn't moved. And next is flip it over and drill out the holes that are left. So 1, 2, 3, done. So the way I do it is, these are 12.5mm, so I get a 12.5mm drill bit and just get a witness mark in the center, because it obviously centers itself on the hole. Do that for each, and then get a pilot hole and then bring it back up to that 12.5mm size that fits perfectly in here. So that's the plan. Don't forget a little bit of lube and you're good to go. Alright, we can see here just a little starting point. So I used a 13mm because it fit better in the hole. So next is some lube and a smaller size, and then work your way up to the whatever size this is, 13 I think. All the holes are now drilled, plenty of swarf everywhere, so just clean it off, buzz this out, and then check that it fits either on your axle or on your random part you have lying around. This should be the finished product. You can see that this is the hole we started with, and then we drilled 1, 2, 3 new ones, and now with our perfectly sized part we can just plonk that straight in. If I don't put it in crooked, there we go. So it goes on and off nicely. We'll flip it over and you can see that it's well centered. Now it's time to put the backing plates on and the axle in. You've probably seen me do it plenty of times by now, but you sort of get them halfway assembled and then get that floating plate sort of in between the drum shoes, and then get it all on there and throw the nuts on and tighten it all up and blah blah blah. Make sure you got it on the right side, make sure it's the correct axle, and it should all go together because your mini spool's mint. Alright, so this side I had to take that spring off in order to get the nut on. You can't really see, there we go. So that spring gave me a lot of trouble. It's just really tight squeeze. And then the other tight squeeze is this clearance here. So I know that the this axle floats 5mm in and out. So hopefully, once this is all installed and got a bit of preload on it and stuff, it doesn't hit, and if it does, hopefully just one of them clearances themselves. There's plenty of meat there, so hopefully it doesn't destroy anything, but let's focus. But it rotates, the mini spool sounds like it's rotating, so that's a good sign, nothing's hitting. So next is disc, then caliper, brake lines, then do the other side. Our re-drilled multi-stud disc and our caliper all bolted up. Next is our braided Hell performance line from RB Factory. So these are for R31 rear to R32 GTR caliper. So whatever, this has got a double flare, whatever size. I don't know, ask RB Factory, he'll be able to tell you everything you need to know for what braided line you need. So just cut this out of the packet. I'll be able to install this end, and then that end will wait until I get the hard line out of the old diff and reinstall it into the car. Sorry about the lighting, it's super bright there and then quite dark here, so it's a bit tricky. But anyway, so I'll cut that out, throw it on, and it'll be ready. Alright, here we go. So this side's all assembled, that side's all assembled. The only things that are missing now are obviously the brake lines, so I'll run them when I put it in the car, and also the handbrake cable. So the springs are there and they're tensioning on that. I just need to elongate that handbrake cable hole from round to oval on the factory 31 and sit it through there, and it should all fit. Hopefully there's enough adjustment in it. That's yet to be figured. Got to run the hard line across and put on my third brake line, which is another RB Factory Hell performance item. So you got the block that bolts onto the diff, and then the two hard lines come out of there, and the soft line goes in there somewhere, but that's a braided line, so that's that. The only other thing I got to do is clean up these mounts, get all the shit off of them, and yeah, that's all done. So one thing to note is make sure that the calipers go to the back of the, so that's the panhard rod mount there. So this is obviously the back of the car, and then the bleed nipples go to the top of the caliper. So that's the top of the car there. You can see the same on the other side, because if they're at the bottom, then it will never bleed. And yeah, I think that's about it. So just got to install this in the car. Alright, so just looking at the R31 handbrake cable, see how this is round. And then this is the VS Commodore handbrake cable, is oval, but they have relatively similar fittings here as far as this backing plate, or this stopper if you will. So that will fit into the VS Commodore dust cover and stop this from getting pulled that way, but I can't put the retention clip on it or anything like that from what I can tell so far. But the other beautiful part about this is if we get right up under here and look there, that there's an adjuster. So I think that we can adjust, come on focus, oh, now I've done it. So that adjuster there, I think with that we can adjust enough slack into these cables here at the end to get it to hook onto the to the VS calipers and still work everything. So I'm really hoping that's the case. If not, might have to get some creative zip tie action here just for the time being. But yeah, the other part is I'll just have to oval this out just a little bit. It doesn't take much, and it will fit on the VS calipers. So that is the last piece of the handbrake puzzle, hopefully, and it'll all work beautifully.